You right?
Yeah.
My name's Carl Giffney. This is Andreas Kindler von Knobloch, and this video follows our residency in Paul Artspace, and we've been sent 8 questions to answer post-residency, which we're going to do now at this tree. We're at the Good Hatchery Studios, Ireland. So, question number 1. What was a point of note or highlight in your time at Paul Artspace / St. Louis?
Well, coming from Ireland, for me one of the most exciting things was, I guess, coming in contact with an aspect of the raw American culture that you can only really get in the Midwest.
Yeah.
This is something that, I guess, as a European, or I guess as foreign to America, you only kind of see through the movies and through popular culture and the media. But
Yeah, through American media, yeah.
yeah,
There was a huge amount of, I mean, we said yes to everything, nearly, and we were very lucky in that the people that we came in contact, a lot of the things that we did which were very American, were very personal things. So being invited into people's family homes, being brought on great studio visits into people's studios, being brought on Breaking Bad nights, down to lake houses, being brought on fishing trips,
canoeing trips,
float trips. You know, that very personal was a huge highlight and a huge part of what we were doing. But also with this sort of investigation that we were doing into the local context, and by saying yes to everything, which was kind of one of the tactics, I suppose, of getting to know a place that we used. We saw another side of America as well, which was kind of more American. We were brought to Larry Flint's strip club. We met the local militia of North Lewis. We were in a car crash. We went to dive bars. We met some fundamental Christians. We met some racists, some Vietnam vets. We met the police.
Yeah, we met the people of Walmart.
Yeah, we met the people of Kmart. And we met people through Craigslist, from buying materials and buying a truck. And I mean, it really was a kind of big, it sounds cliched, it was a big tapestry of the whole thing, was nearly a highlight. Everything as kind of one, really, was the highlight.
And I guess, the social interactions were really
were
kind
key.
of made it. Yeah.
It was social interaction, and interaction with the things that those social groups made. For example, the militia or the strip club or the TV night, the families. That was it.
Yeah.
And it was surprisingly inclusive, I think.
Yeah, at no point did we feel alienated or separated.
No, we were brought into everything. And I think a touch of that, I mean, it was evident in the police as well, and in a lot of the families, and people from all sorts of different backgrounds were kind of bringing us into their home. And I think a touch of that had to do with the Irish connection to some degree,
Yeah.
a little bit.
There was like moments when people were like, I feel like the Irish have done a lot for me. I want to pay that back to you.
Yeah.
Which kind of benefited us.
The whole thing, really.
Yeah.
That was question 1.
Yeah. So question 2. Did that in any way shape or form impact on the project you worked on while on the residency?
Yeah, I think what we were touching on there was that it was, yes, that the kind of whole premise of our work was to investigate the local context. I say local as in kind of statewide, which is what we had access to with our truck and with our connections and with the great friends that we met, and also other states.
Yeah. Like St. Louis, well, like
Arkansas
and Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, it took many forms. It took the forms of kind of eating dinner with people, and it took the forms of shooting an AK-47 with people and discussing the Constitution. I mean, these are things that are very foreign to us.
Yeah.
You know,
Going catfishing. Or
going
catfishing.
catfishing. You know, having a beer with Vietnam vets. Studio visits with people who had very different art practices to what's usual in Ireland. Very
and
different.
Even the tutorials.
Yeah.
And
teaching was a huge part of this. Huge part of this as well. But I mean, the main component, of course, that we used to physicalize this tactic and this way of working was the crystal that we had. For those of you who don't know, one of the main parts of our project was bringing a 500-pound quartz crystal that we excavated on the land of Paul Artspace around in our 1997 Ford Ranger truck that we brought, and we would use this as a way of interacting, which kind of, I think, leads into the third question, which is, how did you arrive at the social component in the project, and is it something that you feel is inherent in your work? And
well,
I mean,
I guess we really chose to go in there. We didn't really have anything planned before we went. We were kind of going, I guess, just to see what we could make out of our time there, and we really decided to immerse ourselves completely in that situation and in the American culture that we encountered, and
definitely
in all the relationships. And we said yes to every opportunity that kind of came our way, and from that made
land
more
of opportunity.
So
yeah, but I mean, yes, it is inherent in our work to different extents and at different times. I think when the social bit really happened, for me anyway, was when we found the crystal, when we came across this submerged 500-pound crystal, and we dug it out and we videoed it, and all of a sudden we had this thing on our hands, and it became a social thing, this big, huge, heavy, because I mean it took 8 men to lift, or 8 strong people to lift.
And I mean, for ages we didn't know what to do with it. We were just fascinated with it.
Yeah.
And then once we were
and that
able to,
fascination is a very social thing, you know, and it's a very universal thing. It was kind of, you can bring that crystal to anyone and they will have a very similar wonder in it, and they'll have a very similar response when you say, here, look, we need to carry that into the bar, or we need to, you know, we want to put that on the boat, or, you know, we want to weigh this. And it was very easy for people to connect to, which is what we were exploiting in some ways. Its weight and its beauty, which are very sculptural concerns.
Yeah, and it kind of made for even opportunities that we didn't plan. So because it was on the back of the truck all the time, times that we'd just gone shopping in Kmart, then we'd come out and there'd be like a bunch of people standing around the crystal.
You were always working.
Yeah.
Like, we were always working in terms of, I mean, not that work is something that should, you know, is not enjoyable. But, you know, when we were eating dinner, we were working, and when we were, you know, shopping, we were working, because you come out, and as Andreas says, there's 8 people standing around the truck, and they're saying, what is this, what are you doing? Which kept us on our toes, and kept the investigation to a very empirical level. So we were dealing with people one-on-one, and using this object as a means to do that, not just approaching people saying, hey, you know, what's the Constitution?
Yeah.
Or whatever we were interested in, not particularly the Constitution, but...
So, question 4. What surprised you most about St. Louis region? Good and or bad?
What surprised me most? Good. I mean, the amazing hospitality. We were kind of just brought into every situation, brought to people's lake houses, brought into people. People were so welcoming, you know, and that was a huge part. We made friends there immediately, like friends that I think we're gonna have for life, you know. And that was surprising. I wasn't expecting America or St. Louis to be so accommodating, and from people from so many different backgrounds. Literally everyone, kind of, that we met would bring us with them and bring us to places and introduce us to people and bring us into their houses. And I suppose that was the really good part. I mean, I suppose the layout of St. Louis was kind of surprising. I mean, from a European background, I'm more used to a city with a centre, or like a traditional European centre, you know, of pedestrian zone, and where all the shops and bars and everything are in one spot, and not so car orientated. And I suppose the kind of lack of socialism, I suppose, was quite different. You know, there being no paths and the public transport being a bit different. And I mean, there was a big gap between, in terms of wealth and in terms of race and things like that, which was more than I've experienced in other places. And you?
Yeah, I think for me it was really the hospitality thing. I really went on this residency not knowing what to expect, and maybe in some way expecting a much more kind of business relationship, or much colder front, I guess, from the people there. But everyone was so warm and welcoming, and we made such good friends so quickly, and got invited into
which
so many
was
homes,
which was integral, you know.
it made the residency what it was. And
I mean, being brought so many places, it was absolutely fabulous. Question number 5. Whose work have you been looking at recently?
I guess most recently I've been going back to the work of Andreas, who's an American artist who's worked a lot with kind of architectural spaces and different kinds of living spaces, and really I guess kind of the technologies for living, and she's really customizing different things. And now she's got a huge big ranch in Arizona where she's running 2 really exciting projects. One is the high desert test sites, where she has loads of people over, and I mean what I've been reading is that the areas like really expand, so people will like make works and then they'll drive maybe like 75 minutes from one work to the next. And then you can also live there for some time, and there's really exciting things going on. And then the other thing is the project for investigative living with
I've heard of this.
Loads of people over there. That Emma Houlihan was over there recently.
Yeah, that's right.
She's the one that was telling me about it. So she's kind of the one that's exciting for me.
Who are you
interested at the moment?
I don't think this has necessarily got anything to do with the work that we made in St. Louis or in Paul Artspace, or of the work that I make elsewhere. But it's an artist called China Adams. And she's American. I think she's represented out in San Francisco there. I think Steve Turner represents her. But she's kind of, her older work is very performative. I've looked at her newer work and it's, you know, not so hot. But the older work I'm really fascinated by. And she tries to identify universal concerns or universal problems, like what happens to my body after I die, or how do you express true love, or what happens to my possessions after I die. There's a lot of death in there, which is obviously very universal. But she comes up with solutions to these problems with her art practice. So, for example, the what happens to my body after I die, she categorized all of her bones and kind of mapped them out, so x-rayed them all, and had an exhibition where they were all for sale. The exhibition just looked stunning, and you could purchase one of her bones. There's an x-ray there and there's all the details about it, and then on her death, it's removed from her body. All of her bones are going to be removed and given to each person, so she knows exactly what happens to her body after she dies.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just kind of like the universality of it, or no, it's the kind of logic, or that process is fascinating. Question number 6, Andreas.
What are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading a book called Post-Colonial Studies by Simon Featherstone, which I don't know how relevant this is either, but it's about ex-colonial countries, and what I'm interested in is the sporting element of this, kind of how cricket operates as a colonial mechanism, and tennis, and I mean a lot of this is British and France kind of centric, I suppose. But there's an interesting one about Ireland and its relationship to soccer, as opposed to GAA. The Gaelic Athletic Association was set up, and it's in when Ireland got its independence, and it was set up exclusively to, or not exclusively, it was to promote Irish games, but also to dispromote or discourage the spread of colonial games into Ireland. But it resulted in FIFA came out with a law, a grandfather rule, which meant that any person can play for a country if their grandfather or grandmother is from that country. And Ireland had the first, what they call, migrant team in the World Cup. So in the 1990 Italian 90 Soccer World Cup, Ireland was the first team to have an entire team, none of whom played in the Irish League at all, but were all Irish. And created this we were celebrated as an Irish team, and created a very different form of national identity.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my interest in it, I suppose. That's what I'm leafing through at the minute.
Cool.
And you?
I'm leafing through a bunch of different things at the moment. Haven't gotten stuck into any of them too seriously yet. But the most exciting one is this one called Fear of Freedom by Eric Fromm.
Fear of Freedom.
Yeah. So it kind of is I guess he's a philosopher and a psychoanalyst, and it studies the process of individuation throughout history to a certain extent. I guess, well, he stops writing in the early 1900s, no, mid-1900s, so it brings it up to then, but it's really interesting. It takes kind of religion and how that's brought it to a certain extent, and at the moment, for example, it's talking about how the move from like the Catholic religion to the Protestant religion has a big change for process of like human individuation, and it's an exciting book.
Yeah, I was reading something similar by Durkheim about kind of these shifts and how they affect suicide levels within Catholic and non-Catholic religions.
Cool.
Now, tricky question, number 7.
Oh yeah.
Your favourite city, question mark?
I don't know. I guess I'm still, if there is such thing as a favourite city, I'm still looking for one, but
Babylon.
maybe Babylon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good cities.
Atlantis.
Yeah, I was recently in New York. It's pretty good at being a city as cities goes.
I've never been, but it's a city, alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a clue either. Moving around, I mean, a lot of the places I go to aren't even in cities, but I don't know, I like Amsterdam a lot. I like its setup, but not really its government now. It's got quite a right-wing government. Very, very hard question. I don't know, I think maybe we'll start a city.
No.
Here.
And I guess the final question is, what are your current and upcoming projects?
Well, I've got a solo show coming up in the Galway Arts Centre on the West Coast in about 7 weeks from now. I'm also involved in this super residency I got, which is a 5-year project in 7 different countries. So it's in Scotland, Finland, Spain, Serbia, Latvia, Lithuania and Iceland. And each country has a national arts centre of sorts that puts forward 3 artists. So I was put forward by Scotland, and for 2 years you travel around each place carrying out residencies that have a kind of socially engaged nature to them or an ecologically engaged nature to them. And then for the further 3 years, then you hone in on 1 or 2 of those places.
Cool.
So I'm kept busy.
That's pretty exciting.
It's
5 years of your life, kind of.
Yeah, it's an EU project.
Yeah.
And you?
Cool. Well, I guess I'm applying for a bunch of residencies at the moment. I've sent an application to actually go over to the High Deserts Test Site project and maybe do some work there. And then I have an exciting meeting this Thursday with Rachel Gilbourne for something that's going to happen in December, but it's all very secretive, and I don't know what it is. So I'm
Yeah,
keen to
watch
find
this
out.
space.
Yeah, cool. So yeah,
That's 8
That's all the
questions. Is there anything else you want to add? Any other? Did you answer your surprises about St. Louis?
Didn't I? Yeah, that came before.
Oh, you did.
Yeah,
Did you have a negative surprise?
Oh, did I? No, I didn't say a negative surprise, but I mean it was mainly positive.
It was all positive.
Except for the like amount of, I guess, just general. I don't know.
Hospitality. The hospitality was a bit
hospitality
much.
was too much.
Too much. Well, thanks very much for listening to this podcast or video or whatever format it takes.
Yeah.
And thanks so much for having us. A
was-
big hello to all our friends and everyone we met over there. You know who you are.
Everybody.
Everybody. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
And,
very, very much.
Goodbye. Until the next time.
Bye.